Time travel is both an occupation and a lifestyle choice, you know. I wanted to be an accountant, but unfortunately, I was born with a personality. People ask me all the time how I managed to blend into other time periods, looking the way that I do. Apparently, I tended to stand out like a watermelon amongst raspberries. Easily noticeable, I suppose. I used to wear a disguise on my transtemporal exploits. I abandoned this practice, however, when I realized that the only way I could hide my hat was by putting a slightly larger hat over it, which oftentimes had the opposite effect. It's trouble disguising yourself when you have a massive, bleeping, buzzing, gear-grinding, bulb-flashing, piston-pumping, topsy-turvy top hat bolted to your brain. People tend to notice things like that, and people especially tend to notice when you try to hide them. Granted, it's easier in certain eras. Any year past 1860, I don't have to do much work. When I am outside my own time, I am often stopped on the street and asked, "Hang on, fellow, what's all this, then?" Although not always quite so eloquently. In such a case, I always hold that honesty is the best policy. In response, I tend to just tell them the truth. "I'm a time traveler," I say. This usually clears their inquiry up immediately. When I tell them this, they either think, "Oh, he's a time traveler. That explains his anachronistic attire." Or they think, "Oh, he thinks he's a time traveler. He's mental. That explains his anachronistic attire." Either way, they don't tend to ask any follow-up questions. Most of the time. Sometimes they can be really annoying. "Oh, you're a time traveler. What's going to happen tomorrow?" How am I supposed to answer that? That's like saying, "Oh, you're a doctor. Am I going to get sick anytime soon?" I'm a chrononaut, not a calendar. There are two ways of answering questions of this nature. Your first option is to be brutally honest and say something along the lines of, "I don't look up the events of every bleeding week I intend to visit. Leave me alone, you dizzy cow." Or you can go the other way and respond as such. "Well, in the morning, Mrs. Emily Gardner of 17 Barrowgate Road, Chiswick, will get up at 7 o'clock and walk to the little cafe at the end of her road for a cup of tea and a biscuit. She will enjoy the biscuit, but won't allow the tea to cool properly, and subsequently burn her tongue. 2 acorns will fall out of an oak tree in the Moline Forest of Serbia. One of them will be picked up by a squirrel and buried behind another tree. The American Steamship Authority will decide to dock their factory workers' pay by $3.50. 46,295 children will be born in China. There will be scattered showers in downtown Budapest, and the planet will be swallowed whole by a giant space dragon at 9 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. Have a nice day." That tends to flabbergast them long enough for me to make a clean getaway. This has happened to me enough times that I am more or less prepared every time I am asked. The more difficult alternative is when they say, "Oh, you're a time traveler. What's going to happen tomorrow?" And I actually know. I was once in London in 1666, and a woman asked me if I knew what was going to happen the next day. I looked at the date and realized that it was the 1st of September, the day before the Great Fire of London. Now, I could have said, "Maybe get out of town for a couple of days." But she was a rather annoying woman. So I said, "Oh, it should be lovely tomorrow. Why not have a picnic?"